Sarkisian, please join me on stage. Dr. Bai Zhao, the Vice Chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee of the National People's Congress of China. Dr. Zhao, welcome. Former President of Estonia, Thomas Ilves, please join us on stage as well. And Tatiana Varovaya, Russia's Minister in charge of the development of integration and macroeconomic. And last, well not last but not least, Sir Ivan Rogers, first, the UK's former permanent representative to the EUA. And last but not least, can I also invite to the stage Yerzhan Ashikbayev, Kazakhstan's Deputy Foreign Minister.
Thank you very much for the question. It's going to be difficult even for the President of the Republic to answer for Armenians. The first Republic is around 3.5 million population, and there are 4 or 5 times more Armenians living abroad. So I will not take that task to answer for all Armenians, but let me share with you my own observations. And I'll try to be short here. First of all, I don't believe the concept or idea of deglobalization, because the way you President also presented, but also it's presented publicly, it's about the political or trade difficulties between states. Rising populism, as you said, is that natural populism, or is something that we like to see equality as a part of populism. But at the end of the day, the globalization is not over, and it's going to continue and much faster. It has not started today, it has started years ago, or decades ago, but it has started hundreds of years ago, or thousands of years ago with the Silk Road. I mean, that was, and before. And the world was already globalized, and the forms of globalization were different. Alexander the Great reaching these areas, and then the Silk Road connecting Shanghai with the end of Europe. And I'm proud to say that my nation, Armenians living those days in Calcutta, in these areas, in Samarkand, Bukhara, and Shanghai, had a role play. And there was a wonderful exhibition the end of last year in New York at the Metropolitan. It was called Armenia. Basically, it was telling the story of Armenians being sort of a big part of that Silk Road. I would like to be a big part of the new Silk Road. So, the globalization is going on. We have difficulties on the top. The mid-globalization, which is the markets, trade and everything, is on. And on the lower level, it's even much bigger, because the world is trading via Alibaba and Amazon. Everybody is connected, the media is changing, so it's on. So the fact that we don't understand how to manage it, it's a different question, and I'll be happy to answer. And now the answer to our questions. Armenia is a small nation, a small state, but a global nation, and I think we will be people that know how to adapt themselves, people that have gone through huge tragedies during the history and have restarted the life again. So a quality that is very important in the new world, where there are less certainties, there are more uncertainties.
As you say, there are more uncertainties. You mentioned Europe.
But I'm positive.
Positive, all right. Well, let's look at this a bit more in detail, because Armenia, as you mentioned, is a small country. It's the smallest former Soviet republic. You say it's got a global outlook. Many people within Armenia are looking increasingly towards the EU, with an EU association agreement. But I wonder if you think the long-term interest of a country like Armenia, which is so heavily dependent on Russia's economic and military help and support, can afford to look more towards the EU? Can it afford to lose Russia's help? Can it afford to alienate Vladimir Putin and move away from this region? Your thoughts?
Well, I think that the question took me to the South Pole. It's out of the context. At the end of the day, Armenia is a nation that lived in that territory thousands and thousands of years, and we were always a small nation surrounded by big empires, and we knew how to handle that. And I mean, we are there. We're still a crossroad, and as I said, it's a small state but a global nation. And in Russia, we have probably as many Armenians living as in Armenia itself. In California, in Los Angeles, only 1 million Armenians. In Lebanon, 500,000. In France, 1 million. So it's a global nation, and we know how to work, and we know how to work very well with our friends as well.
Sure, but
And
you're
Russia
not
is a
answering the
friend.
question. Is Russia more than just a friend? The question was, where does Armenia's long-term interest lie? Is it in a stronger relationship with Moscow and membership in the Eurasian Economic Union, or is it in the EU?
No, I'm trying to answer it. Armenia is a crossroad. It has learned to work with everybody. And that's why Armenia has very close relations with the Russian Federation, and the members of states of Eurasia Economic Union were a part of that. But in the meantime, Armenia has signed an agreement with the European Union, and I don't see any contradiction here. In fact, Armenia has an advantage, and the international community has to try to use that advantage, because Armenia is the only one that has deep relations both with European Union and very deep relations with Russia and Eurasia. So why don't you use Armenia as a bridge to start bridging the differences between Eurasia or Russia and Europe, instead of using Armenia to divide?
So I just want to take Huawei as a very interesting example.
The horse that's runs. Oh goodness, I haven't seen this side of it.
Social media replacing the traditional one? I don't think so, because at the end of it, they're going to merge together. So it is not one replacing the other one, it's going to be one altogether.
Despite the impact of Twitter.
Twitter is just a part of it, just a very sort of a simple way to having access in the modern world, when people are keen to get a very short, to the point message from a leader or leaders. And Twitter is just one of the tools. And inside Twitter, inside Telegram, inside Facebook, there are universes of development in how to handle, starting from entertainment up to other forms of media. But the reality is the change in this globalized world is taking us to a place where we are not only the social networks is engaging it. And I call this change the quantum behavior of global politics. And there are leaders that are using it very effectively. Mr. Trump is one of them, using the Twitter as effective as possible. President Macron was very successful. We saw the role of the social media slash classical media, its role in the Ukrainian elections, and the Velvet Revolution, or the revolution Armenian style that happened in Armenia last year, was basically based on the access of the social media.
Stretch between the European Union and Russia, and you're handling both of them very well. What is your strategy to resolve the issues with the Azerbaijan and the Nagorno-Karabakh issue? My comment about the globalization is that in the absence of transparency in the banking system, for example, the Swiss banks are charging 2% to keep the money, and then they're lending it for 4% to investing in the business. So they are getting about 6% for doing nothing. In terms of the FATF, which is the Financial Anti-Terrorism Task Force, how is it possible for any country to be charged with money laundering when these banks in Switzerland and in other countries are behaving badly and doing illegal practices? That's a question to the panel. Thank you.
Can I start from the second point? I think the statement that the banks are behaving badly. Well, I think it's a very general assessment. It's like saying all the judges are corrupt, or every banker is a thief. Well, it's not the case at the end of the day. And we have to be very careful judging others before we will be judged ourselves. And the banking sector had suffered, the global banking sector, after the recession. And but it doesn't mean that we don't need a banking sector at all. And has anybody invented anything or any way of keeping money, developing and investing? If we have, let me know. I think that I know where we will come in the 10 or 20 years' time. Probably there will be new forms of banking. The banks will be replaced by fintechs and others, but it's not the case today. So just claiming that the banks are are sort of a useless.
Sure, but would you agree that more needs to be done at the government level to ensure that there's a high level of transparency and accountability to raise the kind of trust that people need to see?
Agree that we have to do more, but we have to do more also in education, in healthcare, in many other sectors as well, including politics. So banking is not the only one. We have troubles in many places. Now, when it comes to Armenia-Azerbaijani relations, I think both Armenia and Azerbaijan are negotiating the outcome of the peaceful resolution to the conflict on Nagorno-Karabakh. There's an international framework that is used for these negotiations, and for the moment, on the Azeri side, it's the president of Azerbaijan, Mr. Aliyev, and his foreign minister, and Armenian side, our prime minister and his foreign minister, Michel Pashinyan, and foreign minister. They are negotiating, and I hope, and I will give my full support to the peaceful resolution of that. But one negotiation, one problem doesn't restrain Armenia to be a platform for better relations international and become a platform of cooperation between Eurasia and Europe.
It's 21,000 renminbi, just equal to $3,000 to start the following. That is in the very, very early time.
You, in the final minute or two, where do you think the world's political and economic center of gravity will be in the next, say, 10, 20 years from now?
In Armenia.
In Armenia. And beyond Armenia?
Well, I said it, we are the 21st century. Well, we are a 21st century nation. We are small, but have a fastly developing country where the new technologies, including artificial intelligence, mathematics, are growing very fast. We are one of the rare countries which are globally integrated, a small nation but a global nation. We do understand the East and the West. We do understand the North and the South. So I'm very optimistic. And to your question about fact-checking, I would like to continue what the President was saying, that eventually we'll get a home fact-checking machine, like we have fact machine which is called Google. You will have another machine which will be artificial intelligence that will immediately check if the politician is true or right, just checking artificially the face, or the facts checking with the world facts. So don't worry, pretty quick we will have on our gadgets something that will check facts as well.